Hey, do your friends' pictures look better than yours? And you're wondering, do I have to buy a new phone? Well, I'm going to show you today that you don't have to. My name is Dan, and this is my channel. I love making everyday technology easy. I worked at Apple for 19 years, and now I am in full-time ministry. Today, I have a fun one. It's going to maybe be a little bit longer than normal. It'll be a very step-by-step tutorial, I think, but I will include chapter markers below if you're new to the channel. Man, I encourage you to check around some of the other tips that I have, and if you like what you see, subscribe, hook a brother up. So today I want to talk about the camera because we're getting closer and closer to Apple's next release of whatever iPhone they may be coming out with. They've already released iOS 26. If you haven't checked out that video, check the link up above. And we are starting to see pretty strong changes within the camera software, but then also we know that the new iPhone will have a better camera. Now, truth be told, I am still rocking the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I'm not on the 16. Well, why not, Dan? Well, I'm in full-time ministry, right? So I can't really afford the new phone. But I honestly didn't see a need to. And this year we probably have some exciting iPhone. And I will kind of go on a little bit of a tangent before we dive into the features. Again, chapter markers below. Next year in 2027 will be the 20th year anniversary of iPhone. Does that mean that Apple is going to release something epic? Perhaps, but I think iPhone that comes out this year, which would be the iPhone 17, for sure will be a decent upgrade. Now, let's dive right into the camera because I still see that people do not adjust camera settings all that often, and I hear it all the time. Dan, why do your pictures look so much better than mine? Well, there I'm gonna reveal my secrets, if you will. So I want to give you 5 tips. I'm gonna keep it very simple, but believe it or not, there may be things here that you have not yet adjusted. So just bear tight, hang on with me, and then stay to the end, and I'll give you some bonus information too. So here's tip number 1 that I want to start off with, and believe it or not, is tap focus. I know what you must be thinking. Dan, come on, tap focus. I thought you were gonna show me some super duper like secret. Well, just hang on a minute because I strongly believe that many people still don't know what tap focus is. So I'm gonna go ahead and launch my camera, and I have my lovely assistant here. So what tap focus really does, it gives you the ability to tap on the subject, and you'll see here as I tap on the screen, you'll get this yellow square that shows up. Many people allow or wait for the camera to do that on their own, and that's okay. But by tapping and focus on your subject, you're going to ensure that your subject will be in focus. Sometimes the camera will hunt. So right there, I've tapped on the speaker in the back, or maybe this old school Polaroid in the background. And my Star Wars figure here may just slightly be out of focus. Well, by tap to focus, I can ensure that my camera knows exactly what subject I'm taking. And then as a bonus, if I'm going to be taking multiple pictures of this subject, or there is going to be movement in the background, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap to focus on that subject, and I'm just going to tap and hold. And what you'll see is that my yellow square will animate, it'll get larger, it'll kind of flash, and now up above it says AE/AF lock, meaning my auto exposure and my auto focus is now locked. So as I move this phone around, my focus will not change, right? Normally where it would hunt to the back and capture that Polaroid camera, it won't. As I scroll to the back of that speaker, it will not change focus. So tip number 1, tap to focus. Don't miss out on that powerful feature because many people still do. It will make a difference in your photography. Here's tip number 2. Tip number 2 is underexposed. I'm going to launch my camera. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and I apologize. I am running beta, so it's going to be a little bit buggy. So I just showed you how to tap to focus, right? So now we're not in the best scenario. I'm inside my home office, my slash YouTube studio. But normally I would be taking you outside on a glorious sunny day. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap to focus, and I highly recommend this, especially for photos outdoors. If you're in a sunny environment or a very well lit environment, I'm going to still do my tip number 1. I'm going to tap to focus. And then what I'm going to do too is I'm going to slide my finger down. Now I'm gonna exaggerate this, and you'll see that little that sun line come out. I'm gonna super underexpose just for this demo, right? So what I want you to do is always tap to focus. That's gonna tap to expose, but then I'm gonna slightly swipe down. Not a lot, just a little bit. I would encourage you just to swipe down just a hair. And what that'll do, on iPhone specifically, and most of these new cameras, it is going to underexpose your image, which is going to then make your colors a little bit more saturated, and it will make your black colors within your image a little bit richer. And if you notice, many of these other phones, whether it's Pixel or Samsung or anybody else, their pictures, once you snap their pictures look so amazing because really they're already being somewhat exposed. I'm sorry, somewhat edited by software. Now, Apple takes the more natural approach. That may be a good thing, that may be a bad thing, depending on your preference. But people typically say, man, my iPhone pictures don't look as punchy as the rest of my friends that are on non iPhone. And that's really Apple's natural approach. Apple really tries to capture the image as is, and then if leaves it open to you if you want to edit post, you can, but that is their taking. So again, tip number 2, underexpose, again, just a little bit, not too much. My third tip for taking better pictures is activating your grid view. Now, many of you have this on by default and really may not even understand what it's for or why even have it. But the grid view is that view where normally you have like what I call the tic-tac-toe effect. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to my camera here. And hopefully you will see it as I bring up my camera. My tic-tac view will basically allow you to see a grid view of my camera. Now, let me go ahead and launch this here. And you see this tic-tac view. Well, this tic-tac view goes to basically the rule of third. Now, I'm going to try to do my best here. So you have basically the tic-tac line, right, or the grid view, and you always want your subject, and I'm going to use my Mandalorian figurine here to kind of illustrate. I want to have his face kind of intersect in this, let's say, top right grid. So if you notice that there is a grid marking right around here, you want your main subject to kind of facial features to intersect any of those grids, either the top or the bottom, right? To make a better impact. And I'm trying to do this while I'm looking at my monitor when I should be looking at my phone. Or you definitely want your image to take up a third of the picture, right? So now this Mandalorian figurine is taking up two of those important crosshairs, right? That makes a huge difference on your image taking, because now what you are in essence doing to the image, you're drawing the viewer to like, hey, this is what I want you to focus in on. If you're taking portraits of your kids, make sure that their beautiful smiling faces are intersecting one of those grid lines. Again, whether you take it portrait or not, this may or may not rotate because I'm mirroring my phone, so it's a little bit different. But you definitely want to use the grid view. And in some cases, if you're taking maybe product photography, it's okay to get the image straight in the middle. That will help your composition. And then the last thing that Apple introduced, if you notice right there in the middle, you'll get a leveling icon. This will help you identify when your image is level, perfectly level. That white line will turn yellow to let you know that your image is balanced and alongside the horizon. And you may think that's kind of a silly thing, but I'll tell you what happens. If your image is not balanced, right, or your image is not leveled, then in editing, you're going to maybe crop that image. And every time you crop your image, you're almost deleting pixels from your image. So you don't want to crop when you don't have to, but that is a tip number 3, the grid view. Or tip number 4, let's review really quick. Tip number 1, tip number 1, you want to tap to focus. Tip number 2, you want to underexpose. Tip number 3, you want to have your grid view. And then tip number 4, you want to create distance. Now, what on earth do you mean? Now, I did mention that at the beginning of the video, I will have some bonus tips at the end. So do not leave yet, because this will all make even better sense. You do want to create some distance. In this example, if my Mandalorian or my figurine was all the way up against that Polaroid camera or that speaker in the back, there's not what's called the depth effect. And I'm not talking about the built-in depth effect of the iPhone. I'm literally talking about separation from your background. If you're, let's say you're at a graduation or you're at a birthday party and you're taking a picture, all the kiddos in front of the cake, and maybe you have like a balloon wall behind you, all those pictures will look the same because your background is right up against your subject, right? So that's the same. If I bring up this camera, here you have your subject and your background's right there, and there's no separation. The image is going to look flat. But when possible, you do want to separate your subject from the back. And the easiest way to be doing that is really to get your subject and move them closer, right? Or you move them away from the background, meaning grab your people and take a walk back. It's okay to move your camera back, like get a different position. Most of the epic pictures that we see online that draw our eye to it is typically because it is a different perspective of what you're normally seeing. Here on my iPhone desktop, let me see if this is the right picture. Yeah. So let me go back to this picture. I recently, on my last video, I had this image on my iPhone, and I was surprised that I got a lot of people saying, "Hey, can you share that background screen? Where did you get it?" And by the way, I'll link it down below in the YouTube description. I've also posted it on my Instagram if you want to follow me there. Again, at Cafe Gondan. But this image was a recent picture I took on vacation. It was simply a palm tree. As a matter of fact, I was waiting for my kids. My kids were out on the water. They were paddleboarding. They were on their kayaks, and I was under this tree for some shade. And if you see that, the sun is directly over this palm tree. It was probably like noon. So all I did was I aimed my camera up. I got really close to the trunk of that tree, of that palm tree, and I took that image. It is a different perspective of your image. Same when you are creating a separation of background. You want to create a separation of background so that you're focusing the image in the foreground. You can create some nice natural blurriness or bokeh from your camera. Like, how the iPhone has the portrait mode. We'll get that into the bonus section. Same thing, but you're doing it naturally and realistically. So cool. Last tip number 5 before we get into the bonus, are the filters. So let's talk about camera filters, built-in filters. So I'm just going to open up my camera, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to swipe up, not there. I'm going to swipe up from the word photo, and I'm going to reveal my tool set, my flash, my live, my timer, my exposure, my filter, and my aspect ratio. I can adjust the exposure level here. I just find it so much easier to tap to focus because I'm tip number 1, and I'm going to swipe down to underexpose, again, just a hair. But here what I want to talk about is filters. So by swiping up, oops, my apologies. By swiping up from the word photo, I see that I have filters. And in filters, Apple has given us a predetermined filter. So you have the original, you have vivid warm, vivid cool, dramatic, dramatic warm, and then you have dramatic cool, and then you have the mono for the black and white, silver tone, and then a noir for that epic black. Now, I'll be honest, what I find myself doing 99% of the time is simply taking a picture and making it vivid. And again, in my current setting, it's not going to show epically different because I'm indoors on top of my desk here, but it is making your image look a little bit of that punchy, that effect that most people do. Now, if we're honest with ourselves, most people today will be taking a picture, and then what they're going to be doing with that picture, they're going to be posting that picture on, let's say, your favorite social media platform like Instagram, and then you're applying a filter on top of that. So again, I want to make your life easier by giving you these 5 tips: the tap to focus, the underexpose, using your grid view, using separation, and now using a built-in filter. We are going to make this filter permanent in a sense that you don't have to add this filter part of your photo taking process. It'll be there by default, and we're going to tweak it just a smidge. Now, this filter is not permanent. This filter is laid on top of the image, meaning whenever you want to change the look of it, you're basically going to change the look. None of these edits are permanently damaging your image. So let me show you this as we enter in our bonus section. All right, in this bonus section, I want to dive into the settings of the camera, which this should be done pretty much one time. This should be a kind of like set it and forget it. Although if you're more of a pro user, more of an advanced user, you can continually edit these changes. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to unlock your phone, go to system settings. That's that little gearbox icon that you have there. And then once you tap on system settings, the easiest way I'm going to do is I'm just going to search for camera. And again, I am running iOS 26. You might be running iOS 18. Settings are still settings. You're going to pretty much see mainly the same identical information. Now, let's start off from the top and work our way down. Let's talk about recording video. Even though this YouTube video that I made now is focusing on the camera settings for photography, we are going to do a quick follow-up for the video side of taking images or taking video within iPhone. So I kind of want to bypass all of these, anything that says video. I'm going to go kind of down to the bottom, and then there where it says composition, the first thing you'll see is grid view. And again, my buttons will look a little bit different than yours if you're running iOS 18. Totally fine. You want to activate the grid. You want to activate the level. That's to make sure that your image is level. The next one is mirror front camera. That's when you take a selfie. It will mirror, or it would flip your camera if that's what you prefer. If you rather see yourself on the right side, you can. You can view outside the frame. What this view is kind of cool. If you notice that there are 3 cameras, if you have the iPhone Pro Max, or if you have a regular iPhone, you may have 2, but there's different lenses and there's different physical lenses. Each lens has a different focal length. You have your 0.05, which is that really, really wide shot. You have your 1x, and then depending if you have the 15 or the 16, you might have a 3x or a 5x. Now, these cameras are really important because they serve different purposes. And again, this is more of the bonus information. The 0.5 will give you that really, really wide shot. So great if you're capturing action, stuff that's really up close. Maybe you're in a party or you can't back up and you want to create some separation. You can use the 0.5. But if you notice, it kind of warps the outer images. It makes people look funny, but that could be the look that you're going for. The 0.5 is pretty good. You have the 1x and then the 3x or the 5x depending on which iPhone you have. The 1x camera is typically the best camera the iPhone has. That's right, the 1x is the best camera that the iPhone has because it has the largest aperture, meaning it has the largest eye, so it will allow the most light to come in and the most blurriness, that separation of your subject occurs within the 1x camera. Now, the 1x camera, you can zoom in, but once you start zooming in on any of these cameras, the 0.5, the 1, or even the 3 or the 5, you are using a digital zoom, and at that point, you're basically using mathematics and you're cropping that image, which will never look 100% its best, but 1x is your best camera. So if you are using the 1x camera, but your image, your subject is still very, very far, well, you have to walk closer to them and get closer to your subject. But the 1x camera is your best camera if you did not know. But here's what I wanted to show you. 2 things. We have photo capture, we have photographic styles that I want to dive in there really quick. Photographic styles are your filters. And here you have the standard. I can swipe across. I can use rich contrast. I can use vibrant. I can use warm, I can use cool, so on and so forth. I really like the rich contrast. And what that basically does, it makes the black tones in my shadows a little bit darker and makes my colors a little bit richer. Vibrant is good. It's also my second favorite. It makes the colors really pop. But if your image already has a lot of color, it may be a little bit oversaturated. Now, by selecting my photographic style, where it says rich contrast, now by default, whenever I open up my camera, it is going to activate that rich contrast look without me having to do a thing. And again, I can always swipe up from my photos icon, tap on filters, and I can choose another one of my original settings. Now, I will tell you, because I am running beta, it is a little buggy, and some of the menus are not reflecting the correct names, but that'll get fixed as we get along. So, photographic style, find one that you like and pick the one that you like, and you can always edit these in your camera and make them permanent. Bonus tip there, amazing. The other thing that I want to show you is the main camera. The main camera, it'll ask you, hey, do you want to choose additional lenses? And here we have the 1, the 1x, the 1.2, and the 1.5. Now, this is all using the 1x camera, but it's basically using popular distances that we are used to, the 35 millimeter. Some people are used to the 28 millimeter. For me, I like to stick to the default distance, which is the 1x, but 35 if you're looking for some of those Polaroid style vintage shots or more what like film, you can definitely use that there. Um, then you have a couple more settings that I want to quickly go over. Prioritize faster shooting. This is basically it's going to use the mathematics or the Apple Intelligence within its camera to already start recording your image before you hit that fire button. Again, trying to capture that image as quickly as possible. You have lens correction. So if you're using the wide lens and that morphic where the edges are getting curved, it's going to do its best to correct that for you. It's a good option to turn on. Macro control, if you get really close to your subject, if you're up against a beautiful flower, you'll notice that a little flower does come up on your lens. That is to signify a macro shot. And then you can always turn on classic mode switching again because I'm running iOS 26. Now, one last bonus feature here. I'm going to go back to my camera settings, and I have not spoken about this, and I kind of move my mic and kind of I apologize, move all my stuff around here. So another setting that you should be uber conscious of is what you're taking pictures of. On my top left hand corner, again, may look different or will look different in your iOS 18. If you notice there, I can choose what kind of camera setting I want to take. I can take the default format, which is HEIC. It's basically how Apple chooses to compress your image, so they're not like, they're not like 100 megabytes per image, right? They're not like these heavy files. Um, and then you have raw. If I select the HEIC, you'll notice that my resolution drops down to 24 megapixels. Now, there is a philosophy out there that the more megapixels you have, the better, and there's a lot of truth to that. But there comes a point where your phone is a limiting factor, right? Your phone does not have a full size sensor like the camera that I'm recording on. I'm recording on a Sony A7, so the size of the sensor where all of this data is coming into being recorded on your phone, it matters. So there comes a point where your image sensor size is going to be maxed out. But again, the more megapixels you have, in essence, the more editing you can do post. Here's the way that I like to explain it. It's not 100% accurate, but it'll give you somewhat of a picture. If I had an 8-ounce glass and I have a gallon size pitcher of water, the 8-ounce glass cup will represent my camera sensor. I can start pouring water into that cup and I can fill that cup all the way to the top. But what happens if I continue to pour water into that cup? Water is just going to continue to spill over, right? There comes a point where your sensor is just at its max capacity. So more megapixel, more water in that gallon picture doesn't always help. It does help, but it doesn't always help. But if you're going to be taking some pictures that you really want to edit, you really want to make sure they come out their best. Maybe it's a very important moment in your family's life, a graduation, a celebration. You definitely want to be shooting in RAW. And once I select RAW, you notice that my megapixel, again, according to your phone, now has been increased to 48 megapixel. This does two things. And number one, it will give you more data when you take your picture. And now I go back and I edit my picture either using the Apple built-in software, or maybe I'm using Lightroom or some of these other third-party softwares to edit my image. The more megapixel, the more data I can get. I can increase my shadows, I can lift my shadows, I can correct my exposure afterwards. I can Are you interested? Do you guys want to have a deep dive photography video? If you do, drop it down in the comments. Say yes. Let's deep dive in photography. We'll schedule that. But if you have RAW, you have more data. You can do more editing to your image. But a RAW image means that it's going to be a larger image, larger file. So if your iPhone is running out of space, then you need to balance that. But iCloud helps with that. iCloud, if you notice, will offload a lot of our older pictures just to free up space, and when you need it, it'll quickly download it. Anyways, I think this video is way too long. Again, chapter markers down below. Listen, friends, if you learned one thing today, I'm telling you, this makes my day. Leave me a comment down below what it is that you learned. And if you learned nothing, maybe you knew all these things, then drop me down a comment below and give us one of your tips that we didn't talk about. Maybe you know something that we don't, and we want this community to grow. And look, and here's my YouTube spiel. Yes, subscribe, like the comment, like the video, subscribe. It helps the algorithm. We are over 7,000 members, which is amazing. I am in full-time ministry, so I do this literally for fun because I love educating people and I like making everyday technology easier. Now, many people have reached out privately, and I so appreciate it. They're like, hey, how can we support you? How can we help? That's an uncomfortable spot for me. But down in the link, I did add a buy me a coffee. You don't have to. If you want to go and put $1 in there, I can go by and pick up a Dunkin' Donuts coffee on the way to church or something like that. That would be greatly appreciated. It'll go to great use. You don't have to. I love making everyday technology easy. Until next time, I hope you are taking better pictures with your iPhone. Let me know. And if you are, tag me on Instagram at Cafe con Dan on Instagram. You can find me there. Let's make it a photo contest. Hey, why not? Peace.